Chapter 12 The Dreaming. Maercella Benilde. Lara Senda was frowning as he led the way to Thea. The weather was not good for travel, but we had no choice. When the pronouncement was made that General Ion Nodo was to be king and addressed as King Ion Nodo, first of his bloodline, I had no other option but to leave Amer in a rush. It was unnerving how people who used to serve my household could so quickly go against me once it was known that the Emperor no longer supported me. Those years they had served me well while I offered them protection were forgotten as quickly as that. Not everyone was so easily swayed, though. Some handmaidens wanted to serve me until my death, but even though that would have been favorable for me, it was in no way fair to them. So, I released them from their oaths, tears streaking their faces as they pitied me, their queen. In the end, I felt like those glances, those weary looks, were what made me push through with the journey to Thea sooner. I thought I had left them all, but I should have known that Lara Sendo's support would not waver. And now, as he trudged ahead of me, I could not even guess what he must be thinking. Why? I asked before I could stop myself. Laras turned sideways to glance at me. Then his eyes were back on the road, searching for any danger that might be hiding there. "You are a good queen," he said. "My queen." "I will not tolerate you referring to me as such," I said, trying not to scold. "Being with me endangers your life already. And you, acting like I was still queen, would bring much more trouble. How much more do we stand to lose? Your son disowned you in favor of a most annoying man. Right now, I only want to reach Thea and from there plot our next steps." I wanted to say something, but Laras was not yet finished. "Don't you dare tell me that it doesn't matter. That your life doesn't matter. That you understood why the Emperor did this." His face was red, and his eyes moist with anger. His lips had set on a thin line, and I could see his jaw hardening. "The only thing I regret is that I didn't get to plant a knife in the general's heart the first time he visited the palace," I said softly, considering. "It might have changed things. Americans would understand why I would do such a thing. Just imagine a general bringing a boy bound in ropes to the palace. All mothers would have agreed with me. I will avenge you, my queen. There is no need for that. I have to see what is to happen in my dreams." Laras knew nothing about the dream world, and this was the first time I inadvertently disclosed it to him. "The dreams?" he asked. I took a deep breath. Maybe it was time to share with Laras what my power was. He never knew it because being royalty meant that I need not divulge my ability. "I dream." He chuckled. "So do I. Huge dreams actually," he said, dismissing my disclosure. His eyes glinted as they fell upon my face, and if I was not mistaken, some redness blossomed on his cheeks. I felt my cheeks heating up as well. Laras was a handsome man. Enough. I chastised myself. It is not suitable for me to entertain such thoughts. "I dream in a way you wouldn't even begin to fathom," I said. His eyebrows raised, and he had to stop his bay, perhaps sensing that I was about to unravel something significant. I also stopped my horse. "The dreams that I have are like warnings. They give me an insight into what could happen, and if I do not follow what it dictates, it ends disastrously for everyone," I said. "Does this mean that you had this dream? That Ion Nodo would be put to the throne in your stead?" he said, his voice steely. "Not this one. You see, the events that happen in real life are the actual stories. But the dreams, these are just fragments. Bits and pieces of what might happen. It isn't always bad. Sometimes, there were also good dreams." "It sounds rather complicated," he said. "I barely understand what you're telling me. And why must you explain it to me now?" he said, sounding confused. "It is important because I have not had a dream for a long time until after the Akene Wine Festival. It was rather dreadful," I said. "If it's giving you a warning, then we must heed it. Whatever dread you feel must be replaced with something more preferable," he responded reassuringly. "I wish it were that simple. But the thing is," I paused. A chill coursed down my spine as I remembered the dream I had about myself, Thea, and Solarin Douglas. All my life, I have protected my son. I obeyed the warnings. I followed what I must do to save his life. I had a dream that a swordsman would kill him. I told my son about it, but he did not believe me. Forgive me, my queen. The Emperor has no hold on me. For what he did to you, his mother, he does not deserve my support, Laras interjected. First of all, do not address me as your queen. I have a name. Maercella. If you must continue protecting me, then it must be as a friend. Call me by my name, I said firmly. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. He closed them again. You must listen to me. I need you to help my son see that what I told him was true. If we come to a point where I cannot be there to protect him, I want you to do it for me, I said sternly. Lara sneered, something I had not seen him do in the past. If you won't be there to protect him, then that only means I have died, for there is no occasion where I would put my life before yours, he said without looking at me. You don't understand, I said, surprised at his response. It is you who do not understand how deep my fealty runs. Had you told me to tear the general's body apart with my sword, I would have done so without hesitation. Now, as I stand before you, if you tell me to go back and reclaim Emperor for you, I would. It will not matter if there was no one else to help me with the task. I will do anything to see your word into execution. After this, his eyes had gone softer. His voice was gravelly and emotional. I knew that the guards took to heart their allegiance, but at some level, I always thought there must have been a limit to what they would be willing to do. There was no way for me to change his mind, but the last dream I had, the one where I was to find myself in Karasthea with Salaran Douglas, that was one circumstance that I never thought would happen so soon. I had spent all my life in Emir, save for the time when Gorio and I went to Minoan. But since then, I had no clue that I would ever abdicate the throne. This was why I thought my dream had only a remote probability of happening. Why would I ever leave Emir for Karasthea, the land where all the dragons used to live? And my dream was so specific. It is there where I would meet my death. I could still remember vividly how burning lava hurled towards me. That was the moment when I awakened. Since then, I have not had that dream again. The strange thing was that it had all happened so soon. I still cannot believe I am on the journey to Karasthea now. Listen to me, I said fervently. In one of my dreams, I saw my death here in Karasthea. There was a woman who, months ago, was not even my acquaintance but whom I know now. I've dismissed the dream and buried it deep inside my thoughts because I never thought that I, of my own volition, would choose to go to where the volcanoes are abundant. This is abhorrent. But now that I am almost there, I fear for my life. When? I asked, looking him in the eye. When will I meet my death? The volcanoes are not erupting now, but they will. Soon. My voice had been trembling with fear. The hair on my arms and the back of my neck stood as I faced the reality that I could die any time. There is no stopping the dreams from happening. I tried to avoid them before, but for my life to move forward, I have to react to the scenes in my dreams. If not, that would be the only thing that could ever happen to me. I certainly do not want to always be on my toes, wondering when the volcanoes would erupt, I said, catching my breath. Laras nodded curtly as though he understood. I will stand by you to protect you. That is all I can promise you. After a while, as though an afterthought, he added, Maercella. It wasn't enough. Laras's promise was not to keep my son safe, which was all that I lived for. All the years that I have spent protecting him would be for naught if he ended up dying. Death comes to everyone, but a premature one could be prevented. I would get in between death and wind if I had to. When we get to Karasthea, it could be moon turns, or it could only be days before Salaran Douglas comes here. When that happens, the volcanoes will erupt soon after. We won't push further if you are not going to promise me that in case of my sudden demise, you would not blame yourself for my death. I would have you do no such thing. It would please me if, instead, you would ride to Kanelan and offer protection to my son. My voice had quivered as I spoke, and I could only hope Laras would finally give in. His eyes moistened when next he spoke. Maercella Benilde, my sword is yours. I would like to believe that your existence paved the way to mine, but should you cease to be here no more, I would ride hard to Kanelan as your heart desired. To my surprise, he thumped his clenched fist twice on his chest. It was an ancient sign of fealty, a mark to seal his promise. He waited a while for me to speak, but there were no words left for me to say, so I simply nodded at him. It seemed enough. My heart was beating frantically, and I was gripping tightly at the reins of my horse. Could he have made me catch my breath? It couldn't be. I would never allow it. After a long silence, Laras finally broke it by saying, "We must continue with the journey." I nodded and kicked at my horse because I dared not speak further.